Hey folks, Kevin here. Well, it's April 4th, 2019. I'm over in the work area, and this is an episode of Ask Me Anything. And so today I thought I'd go through a couple of comments and questions. Siri commented recently. I've given her some hope. She's been watching the sweet potato growing series. So thumbs up, Siri. Best of luck. She's in 6B. We're in Zone A, Oswego, New York, near Lake Ontario. So right now it's 33 degrees outside, and it's in the afternoon, and the winds have calmed down quite a bit, but they're still pretty harsh. It's very cold out there. But I was able to get some of the hardwood cuttings into the soil out there in one of the beds, and there'll be a video coming up on that. Charles Jackson III said, great review. That was a review on the stiletto hammer. The titanium hammer. I'm really glad you enjoyed it. He's getting one for his carpentry class. Thumbs up. I really love the stiletto tools so far. Really fantastic. Ben commented he found the video that I had posted on how to do measurements of the vertical siding with the angles, trying to determine the appropriate angles to be cutting on the siding. Helpful. So good. I really hadn't gotten many comments on that video. Mars Rover, a regular on the channel. Great content, Kevin. Just a few questions on your setup. Do you use timers on your lights, and what color characteristics are they? Warm white, cool white, natural, or combination? I think with the late spring, you're pretty much still on time with your seed starting. So thanks so much, Mars Rover. It's always a joy to have you, make comments and ask questions as well. So the lights that I'm using right now are Fiat, F-E-I-T, and I'll put a link in the description below. I've gotten most of these through Costco, but I've gotten them through Amazon as well. They're really good LED fixtures. There are two lamps in each fixture, and I'm planning on making a video doing some comparison on many of the different lighting sources that I've used. Now, I've used warm and cool, one tube warm, one tube cool, in both T8s and what are they, T12s, I think they are, fluorescent fixtures, shop fixtures. And I've used just the cools and just the warms, so they're just the whether it's 5,000 Kelvin or 3,000 Kelvin, that sort of thing, which wavelengths they're actually the light spectrum is. And many people who promote starting seeds talk about using a combination of one of each tube in your fluorescent tubes. And the LEDs, as far as I know, they only come with you either get 3000K, 4000K, 5000K, 6000K, whatever it is, and I chose the 5000K. And the reason that I chose these fixtures is because I saw no appreciable difference between using either just the cools, the warms, the cool and warm combination fluorescent fixtures versus the 5000K LED fixture when it comes to starting seeds. Now that's what I'm talking about right now. Once the seeds are at the stage where they need to be transplanted into the ground, that's a whole different ball game. And there's other characteristics. And before I've talked about the different hormones, the auxins and all, causing apical dominance, and why the plants either bend towards the light and so on, or if the plants are getting stressed out because they're getting too leggy, as the term is described, and how that may impact. And I hope to do some studies in the future here on site so we can see, well, what's the difference as far as the yield at the end of the season, the time to production, the time to flower, the time to fruits, and maturation of the fruit as well, if they've been stressed by getting too leggy and so on. I know that these things have all been reported, but as I've been checking things here on our own site and just changing one variable at a time, and that's really important if you're going to do a study, and you just need to change one factor at a time. For example, I've been using with these LED fixtures, I have these recoilable, adjustable height so that they can go up and down. And the reason for that is, in the literature, there's some mixed reviews, whether it's 4 inches above the top of the seedling to 6 inches above the seedling. Anything above 6 inches above the seedling causes the amount of absorption of the light by the plant, which it's necessary for the photosynthesis. It's not adequate enough, so the plants get more leggy. In other words, they get really tall. The light isn't close enough to them. And one of the things I've learned throughout my profession is that many things are repeated over and over again in the literature. And when you find that original source, sometimes the evidence really isn't borne out. It's just something that's repeated over and over again. Have I had my plants get pretty darn leggy? Yes. My tomatoes specifically. Do my brassicas start to get leggy? Yes, they do, but they always tend to lay over. I just don't typically have a single straight stalk that comes up for my brassicas. So I don't know. That's an area that I'm interested in doing more research in, and one of the reasons is because when you use an adjustable system like this with a small retractable line to adjust your light, you're taking up valuable space for that plant to go. And I know some people will just mount their light to the surface and then put other objects underneath the trays, the seed flats. And as the plant starts to grow in height, then removing the supportive elements below the seed flats. So those are things to think about. So the short answer to what lights I'm using now, I'm using strictly LEDs. One's for energy conservation, and I see no significant difference with the type of light that I'm using for seedling development. Now it's a different thing if I wanted to get fruit production out of the citrus fruit and so on. Yes, I would be paying closer attention to the wavelengths that are needed for each time, whether it's for vegetative growth or for fruition, whichever one we want to get, fruition. I think now I'm getting names mixed up when we're getting fruit production, flowering and fruit production. So, but I'm going to do more work as far as the height of the lamps. I may remove many of these and just mount the lamps up above, or potentially just increase the intensity of the light from up above. The sun doesn't get any closer to our gardens, and it does a really good job. It's the intensity, the amount of light that those plants are absorbing. As far as timers go, yes, sorry about that. Everything has been on timers for years when I've been doing things. So for many years I've used different timers for my aquarium systems, whether they're reef systems and all. I'd have them come on and give moonlight at certain times and so on. So I've used some of these mechanical timers with multi-outlets and all. Would I recommend these at this point? No. Then we have the digital ones that can be set as well. The problem with these non-autonomous timers is that anytime there's a power outage for any reason, you've got to go back and reprogram it, even if it's just a very brief power outage. Now the mechanical ones are a little bit better than that, but they tend to be not as reliable. I've had problems with timers over the years, and I've had the ones that are the simple little ones that plug in and you just plug into it as well. What I've been using now for over a decade are Z-Wave controlled apparatuses. Now there's Wi-Fi controlled units like this, and many of you use Amazon Echoes or Google Home and that sort of thing, or you have apps on your phone that can control Wi-Fi controlled smart plugs. And as long as you get not a lamp smart plug, you get an appliance smart plug, so one that's probably has a picture of a fan on the side, or has multiple lights on it. That way you could plug in a whole string of different lights and program it to come on at different times. And you can use these to control watering systems as well. Now this is a strictly indoor unit here, but they make them for Wi-Fi that are like this one, an outdoor unit. So these are my outdoor units, and the plug plugs up into the bottom down here. And you can manually hit a button here on the front face of it to turn it on or off separately, or you can use your phone application or log into it with your phone. This is an indoor Z-Wave one, and I like having everything programmed because there's so many things on this property that I have that are automated and that can document things, whether it's weather conditions or if there's motion in a place and all, turn on a camera, that sort of thing. So having, if I were to invest in a timer, I would invest in probably the least expensive, if it's indoors and you don't have to worry about the system getting wet, is using one of those smartphone Wi-Fi ones. If you're serious about wiring up a greenhouse or other systems and all, I like Zigbee and Z-Wave controlled units. We get better transmittance through walls, so you can have these controls in your house, and if the temperature gets to a certain point, you need to be alerted, or you need it to automatically turn off the water supply. So like for instance, with some of these systems, I know you didn't want to hear about this, like where the hot water heater is. I have one of the sensors. If there's a bit of a leak of water, it will automatically trigger an alarm and shut off the water going to the hot water tank and turn off the power going to the hot water tank as well. So it's just trying to reduce the possibility of damage ultimately. So these things are really handy, and it's something I would encourage everyone to look into, are either Wi-Fi, Zigbee, or Z-Wave controlled equipment. It seems like Z-Wave isn't the hottest item out there anymore. I think I covered just about everything. Oh, Colette actually commented, on one of the videos a while back, I talked about what I think about the future is with ground covers. So right now, if you go on outside, I'm using tarps, but my tarps, I couldn't get them on for over the winter time, so I get more weed seeds getting blown into all of my permanent raised beds that are uncovered. Now, ideally, the ground should always be covered. There should always be a cover crop on all of our garden beds. And then in either mowing it down, some people would turn it in. I don't really want to turn over the soil in the future. I want to plant in amongst the cover crop. But every place else, even in the food forest, we don't want bare ground and all. And that was a video I made. Hopefully, if I can find it, I'll put a link up in the upper right-hand corner. But Colette gave a couple of suggestions: lemon creeping thyme, it's like citronella, and Outside Pride has mini clover economically, 4 to 6 inches. You train it with mowing, 3 to 4 inches high. So those both sound good. What I've been doing so far as trying to propagate as much clover as I can, what I've done is every time I get the white clover coming up, because that's really short, really nice nitrogen fixer, and it doesn't interfere with many of the other varieties of plants that we're having in our gardens. So it doesn't do a lot of competitive inhibition. Now, and there's videos I've posted about using that around the asparagus. Will it reduce the yield some? Yes. Will it keep the ground cover and reduce the amount of weeds there? Yes. Will it fix nitrogen into the soil there? Yes. Is it good for beneficial insects? Yes. Is it good for the honeybees? Yep. So it checks off all of these benefits, and there aren't any detrimental things other than some competitive inhibition of whatever the desirable plant is. The more aggressive, it certainly with your nut trees and fruit trees, that'd be fantastic to have as a ground cover. And so because of the price of the white clover, last time I checked, a 25-pound bag of white clover seed was just over $300. And that's a pretty, and they're tiny little seeds. Yes, there's tons of them, but I haven't been that successful. I have been successful when I planted them in seed flats. But it takes time, and then it means more work and all. And it'd be much easier to cast the seeds. So one of the things I'm going to do with the quick cut greens harvester that I've got, I'm going to be going down to a patch that I spent a lot of time getting the clover going, and when those are done flowering and the buds are turning brown and they're ready to lose their seeds, I'm going to use the quick cut greens harvester to go down and harvest that and then spread that around, and then just keep going back to that a couple times a year and gradually increase the amount of ground cover that we're having all these places. Yes, is the quick cut greens harvester an expensive tool? Yes. But if you do it twice, you've more than paid for the tool with the amount of seed that you have to buy as well. So I think that takes care of all the comments and questions. I really appreciate everybody contributing to the channel. It makes it much more interesting, and it really stimulates me to think more about some of the topics that I want to cover. And certainly, like recently with the conversations, one of the things I want to do is spend more time talking about the propagation techniques, because I just sort of do things, and then later on I'll show a little bit of a video of, okay, I just transplanted this one that I propagated, and I really didn't go over it in detail like I should. So there'll be a video coming up, or it just did come up, on that topic as well. So if you have any comments or questions, please leave them below. If you think this was of value, please give us a thumbs up, and thanks again. I really appreciate it. Have a great day, folks. Bye-bye now.